The Sundown Close-Up. It is official. The mayor of New Hampshire's largest city grows the Republican field for the state's highest office, Ted Gatsas, on why he's entering the governor's race. And it's getting messy on the Republican side in the battle for the White House. Has been for a while, but there's new rhetoric and one more candidate gone. So will the GOP coalesce around Donald Trump? Question worth asking for sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh McKelvin. He's gained a lot of publicity lately for his outspoken push to fight the city's war on heroin and opioids. But now Manchester Mayor Ted Gatsas is setting his sights on the corner office in Concord in an effort to lead the state forward. But other than battling the very real and huge problem of opioid and heroin addiction, what are some of the other issues that are on the mayor's mind? He's my first guest this morning. Mayor, good to see you. Congratulations on the decision.
Thank you very much.
So how'd you get here? I mean, every cycle, you know this, people are asking, when's Ted Gatsas going to run for mayor or something else? Why this time?
Well, I think that a lot has to do that my health is in great shape. I got a clean bill of health from the doctor. My mother and my wife said it was time to go. So I followed them and said, okay, let's go.
Is there any, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about the heroin issue in Manchester. Did that play a role in your decision making?
Well, Josh, I'll tell you a funny story of what the big decision maker was, and the heroin issue was one of the bigger ones. But a few months ago when my mother called me and said, come to the house, I got to talk to you about something, and she has two electric bills, one from this year and one from last year. And she wanted to know why the kilowatts that she was burning was the same this year as last year, but her bill's gone up $40. She said, I'm not doing anybody's laundry. She says, why are electric rates going so high? So when you hear that from somebody that's close to 90, it's affecting people in this state, and we have to make sure that we find a way to reduce electric rates.
So that, obviously pocketbook issues are important, but the heroin problem has been something you've been very critical about the state's response to it. How would you do things differently, and did that also motivate you to try to get involved at the state level?
Well, you know, certainly I have a lot of respect for the department heads that we have here in the city, and whenever there's a crisis, I always talk to them and try and get their advice, and they always give me the good advice that I need so that I can get out in front of something. And when this heroin issue first started, and I think, Josh, you and I talked about this probably over a year ago before it was at the point of where it is today. And as I said then, when parents were coming in to see me and talking to me about it, that nobody should get that call, no mother, no father, that call that says your son or your daughter has taken an overdose. We have to do something, Josh, when we talk about bringing somebody in that's going to be the drug czar. How about if that person is somebody from a first responder unit, like a police chief, like a fire chief, that is seeing the front lines of what's going on? Because when mothers come in and talk to me, there was a mother that just came in a few weeks ago and said to me that she walked into her son's bedroom, and he's 15, and he had a needle in his arm, but she couldn't get him help because there are no places that will take minors in the state of New Hampshire. We have to fix it. We need to fix it at the top, and when people are starting to deal fentanyl, like we saw that raid that happened today that I saw on Channel 9, that if people are dealing fentanyl, they should be arrested for attempted murder, because that's exactly what's happening. It's no longer a heroin issue, it's a fentanyl issue. We need to get stiffer penalties on fentanyl. I know that the state increased their penalties to bring them to the same level as heroin, but I think that if somebody is caught dealing heroin and fentanyl and somebody dies, they should be arrested for attempted murder.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been critical of the governor's office for not doing this or not doing that, but here in New Hampshire, much of the authority does come from the legislature, 400 members in the House, 24 in the Senate, and things take time. Is there anything you've identified that you would do differently from the governor's office if you were there to speed things up and add more urgency to the response?
Josh, I can remember when I was in the legislature, if we had an emergency, we had an emergency one year when it came to LIHEAP money. There wasn't enough dollars to bring dollars back so folks could get heating oil into their homes. We came forward and we put legislation together with a session in the House and a session in the Senate, all in the same day, and got funds to those people that needed heating dollars. So if you find something that's as critical as this issue here, you can get the legislature together, you can talk to the Senate President, you can talk to the Speaker of the House, and if you get them to understand of what we need, they certainly will have something and have an emergency session to get it done.
But pointing to the Senate, the governor was critical of the Senate this week for cutting money that would go to the Governor's Commission on Alcohol and Drugs and Treatment there. And we'll see where this goes, but it is certainly going to slow down those dollars. And this is a Republican-held Senate. So I guess my question would be, how would you get the Republican-held Senate and the House and move things quicker?
Well, Josh, I can only tell you that based on my experiences in Concord, we used to work well with both sides of the aisle and get things done. In the city of Manchester, as the mayor, there's not much you can do if you don't have the support of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And I've shown with the things that we've accomplished here in the city, we've done a lot, and the board has supported a lot of the ideas that I've brought forward. I think that if you go up and they understand that you want to solve a problem, not just talk about it, let's get it done, I think they'll roll up their sleeves, sit next to you, and get something done.
You find yourself, you're going to be in a primary with Chris Sununu, Republican Chris Sununu, State Rep Frank Edelblut, I believe is running. Other people are considering it, Senator Jeannie Forster. Is there anything about that field as it was constructed that wasn't satisfactory to you?
Well, Josh, no, I can only tell you that I never run against anybody. I run for the office. I will go out and meet people in New Hampshire, talk to as many people as I can, listen to as many ideas that they have, and sit down and try and get things solved. That's what's most important. Let's get some issues solved. Let's get problems fixed. Let's help people. We can sit here and say, yes, we're on the bottom of the totem pole of getting services out to the addicts. But if we don't stop the flow of fentanyl at the top, we're going to have a bigger problem by having to build more coffins than we build beds.
Are you concerned there might be a Manchester bias when it comes to the rest of the state? A Manchester mayor hasn't been elected governor in a lot of years, maybe more than 100 years. I should have got the number for you, but I don't have it. How do you bridge that gap between, the people who see Manchester as Manchester but different from New Hampshire?
Well, I think that what people would look at is the accomplishments that you've had in Manchester. And if you've had a lot of accomplishments, then they'd want you to talk about health care at the state level. They'd want you to talk about energy costs at the state level. And they would talk to you about how are you going to fix this problem at the state level when it comes to the heroin addiction. And I think that that's what people are looking at. They're looking for people to solve problems, not just where you're from. Tell me your ideas. Maybe we differ. And maybe I can give you some better ideas, and let's see if we can't put a plan together.
Would you have supported the expansion of Medicaid, the reauthorization of Medicaid?
Well, I think there's no question that they've worked very hard on this. There are 46,000 people that are insured by it. Anytime we can get people insured and get them to a primary care physician that keeps them out of the emergency room is a good thing. There are other things that I would like to look at in that plan. Yeah, there are. I'm looking at the plan that they have in Ohio. And seeing what that does versus what we have here in New Hampshire and what makes sense. But I can certainly tell you that people in the House and in the Senate have worked very hard.
But you're not a Republican that says, okay, it's anything related to Obamacare just needs to go, period.
Well, I'm the person that says, what do you do for care for these people? I mean, once they get health care and they understand that they're using a primary care physician, and I think that in the House they passed that amendment that said you need to go to work, is important.
Sure. Speaking of work, unemployment is low here in New Hampshire. The numbers are good, better than a lot of states around the country. In past cycles, Republicans say, well, we can do better with right-to-work legislation. Is that something that you think that you would push forward there? And what would you do differently to a climate that appears to be pretty healthy right now?
Well, I can tell you that when you're talking about jobs, we need to get out of the way of businesses. We let them create the jobs, let them create the good jobs, and let's find a way how we can reduce the business enterprise tax and the business profits tax. Because if you can reduce taxes, businesses will hire people to do work. And that's what's most important. And we need to make sure that we go out throughout the state and talk about the accomplishment that we have here at the Manchester School of Technology. We have a fully four-year school that kids can go in and come out with manufacturing jobs, and people will hire them. It's the only four-year technical school in the state. We did it here in Manchester. We should do it throughout the state because not everybody's going to go to college. And this gets high school kids ready for those manufacturing jobs. And that's what a lot of manufacturing companies here in the state are hollering for.
And obviously the legislature, as I mentioned, Republicans have control of it. And with a Republican governor, right to work would seemingly pass. Is that part of the solution?
I can only tell you, Josh, that I voted for right to work when I was in the Senate. So my position is pretty clear. I have a voting record. People know where I stand, and I don't duck from it.
All right, let's talk to you about the climate nationally in the Republican Party. I mean, I don't have to go over everything that's taking place in the presidential race, but there's a lot of division there. Are you concerned that what's going to happen at the top of the ticket is going to affect what happens on down the ticket?
Well, Josh, I can only tell you that, Republicans are great for getting into primaries, working hard. As long as we can come together at the end and support the candidate that comes out of that convention, that's a good thing.
Are you worried, though, about the Donald Trump and the contested conventions that we talk about there? And you have a very hot Senate race already shaping up between Kelly Ayotte and Maggie Hassan. Is it separate, or how do you navigate it?
I separate it because, one, I've got to run a city, and two, I got to run a campaign. So I've got a campaign that I've got to run, and I've got to get the message out to people in the state of New Hampshire of what I'm looking for. You can't listen to everything else that's around you because, boy, you can get really lost in it.
Okay, and lastly, moving forward, in order to win this thing, you do have to win a primary, and we'll see what happens when what the Democratic field will look like and who the nominee is there. But what is your main case going to be to the New Hampshire voters? That, you know what, Ted Gatsas, former mayor of Manchester, former state senator, now is the time for him to be governor.
Well, I think people know who I am. I think a lot of people respect the decisions that I make. We may not always agree, but they know that I'm going to give you an answer on where I stand on something. And people know that we'll get things done. As I said to you, here in the city of Manchester, we have accomplished a lot. A mayor can't accomplish anything unless he has a board that supports the ideas that he brings forward, and we've done that. We've done that on various issues that people never thought we'd ever get done. The first mayor out of the last 5 that have brought forward bringing the Parks Department into the Highway Department. They told me it couldn't be done. We worked together and we got it done. We got a municipal complex built. We got it built so that we reduced the size. We were on time and under budget. So when we start talking about things about what we can do at the state level, people need to reflect of what we've accomplished here at the city level, and why can't we do it at the state level?
Well, certainly no issues to talk about moving forward. We touched on a couple of them today, but congratulations on your decision.
Thanks.
Best of luck moving forward. Good to see you, Mayor.
You have a great day.
You too. And we'll be right back to discuss the presidential primary with an in-depth look at the aforementioned Republican Party and where it's headed. Stay with us.